guys, today I'm gonna review That Inevitable Victorian Thing by E.K. Johnston. I received this book through Edelweiss in exchange for an honest review, and this already came out October 3rd, so if you want to read it immediately after this review, then you can buy it immediately. I think that's great news. So this is a YA historical fiction / science fiction, and it is an alternative history. What intrigued me about this one was that it was kind of Victorian England, but a futuristic setting where there was like genetic matchmaking, so you would find your perfect genetic match. But there's actually so much more world building going on in this book. There's actually like really detailed, as far as possible, detailed world building on how this world kind of came to be. I just knew that, you know, this was basically a better world. There's basically no ableism or racism or queermisia or anything like that, and that was what intrigued me about the novel. Now there is more detail about how all of this happened in the novel itself, and there's probably a lot of people who could talk about this in detail, but it's not what intrigued me, and it's not what I have a lot of knowledge about. So if I were to explain it to you, I would probably fuck up facts, so I just rather not. I know there's lots of people who, you know, don't really enjoy these kinds of stories because they kind of erase history and they kind of erase the work that marginalized people have been doing. But I thought, and now we're already getting to the review, but let's just go with it. I thought that this was actually a book that really kind of celebrated diversity, and I can see where people are coming from if they have problems with it. Like, totally valid opinion, but I actually thought that it was so nice to read this story. I thought this kind of Victorian setting, but with these futuristic elements, was so great. And then seeing all of this diversity just seamlessly included in this Victorian setting, that made me so happy. That gave me so many feels. I just thought it was so wonderful because it was just diversity that was just there. Nobody questioned it. It wasn't weird. It was just I loved it. And I know that some people don't like that, but I loved it. I couldn't be happier about this world building. And you could tell that E.K. Johnston put a lot of thought in this, and that she was very well aware of this not being the ideal kind of way for diversity. Like, there's an author's note at the end of it that I would highly, highly recommend reading, because she kind of explains this a little bit, that even kind of validated this whole novel even more for me and made me realize how I think that it's okay to be doing this, and this is kind of what fiction is for as well, because I felt very happy reading this. I felt very happy reading this alternative history and reading of this world where, you know, everybody is just kind of accepted, and reading a world where just things are a little bit less shit than they are in today's world. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the world building basically. But I have to say that, and that's also probably why I can't give too many details on the world building, what I enjoyed most about this was the characters and just everything, like the character development and just all of the character interactions. And I definitely think that some of the aspects of the world building fell a little bit flat, but it was because of the characters and because I think the main characters were the focus of the story. I just don't think that the world building was as important to E.K. Johnston. I think that she just wanted to create this world, but mostly she just wanted to create this world to have the story set in this world, if that makes any sense. And so I feel like while the world building is very interesting, it could have been fleshed out more, but it wasn't, because it wasn't about the world, it was about the characters. I loved all of the characters. The story is told from 3 points of views, and I loved all of the main characters. I loved all of the side characters. I loved all of the friendships. I loved the family dynamics. I loved everything. I was so happy about this whole book. All of the like different aspects of love, like be it in a friendship or be it in a family or be it romantic love, were so well done and so well explored. There was a storyline of a romantic love that has kind of been growing for years and years, and there was a storyline of a romantic love kind of developing in just a short amount of time and being something very new and exciting. And I just love that so much. I thought both of these storylines were so well done. I thought all of the, I know I'm repeating myself. I just thought all of these different relationships were just so well done, whatever kind of nature they were of. And it just made me so happy. As I said, the cast is very diverse, you know, obviously there's lots of different races and there's so many biracial people. There's queer characters in it. There's even an intersex character, which I did not know at all going into this now. I haven't really heard any own voices reviews of this. I would think the representation was well done. And one of the main romances in the story is a female-female romance. And I can't, okay? I just can't believe that all of these things were in a Victorian kind of setting. That was just, I don't know, it was so cool, like seeing these people like going to these dances and like balls and this like pretty big dresses, and then it's queer and it's like so unapologetically queer. But what I also really liked is that, well, I always have a problem with like historical fiction or fantasy that is about a queen falling in love with a girl, because for me it definitely raises the thoughts of like an heir, you know, I hate it, but like that's always what goes through my mind. Even as a queer person myself, I always think, okay, but would this make sense? Like, would they let a queen marry a girl if it's not sure how this would be producing an heir? You know, it's just, for me, that's something that you have to think about, because this was a science fiction novel, which obviously had all of this genetic matchmaking and everything like that. There were like very easy answers to that. And so I really like that I think for the first time, someone actually thought about what would happen if the queen were to marry a girl, and that there are possibilities for an heir even if the queen marries a girl, and even if the queen isn't like, oh yeah, and then I'll just sleep with the brother of the girl I'm marrying just so I can get a child. Because that, I'm sorry, but that worked a bit of blue, but that was it, okay? Okay, that wasn't about the queen, okay? That wasn't about the queen. That was something, anyway. I know this is like very specific, but I always wonder about that. The thing is just, obviously it's possible, but I just hate when books don't address it, because it is a problem. Like, I'm not saying that these books should not include a female-female romance or a male-male romance if there is, you know, a queer queen or king, but I'm just saying that this is a problem that they would face, and it should be faced in the story. And so I'm glad that it was briefly mentioned in this one, that there's possibilities. Because it's science fiction, there's obviously different possibilities, but I just really like that, so I thought I might as well mention it. But yeah, I just thought that the whole book was just very like atmospheric as well. I thought the writing style was very simple but just beautiful, and I just thought that the whole book was like very comforting. I think just reading it just made me feel very comfortable and nice and safe, and I can definitely imagine rereading this when I need a comfort read. I also thought that the ending was really, really beautiful. It was definitely an ending that I did not expect to happen. I think it was the first time that I read something like this in YA, but it made me incredibly happy. It made so much sense for these characters, and it showed the character development, and it was just happy and beautiful, and like, I'm emotional because I was just like, that is so great. Like, honestly, that must have been one of my favorite like YA book endings ever, because it was just, yes, good, very, very good, so good. So yeah, I think these are all of my thoughts on That Inevitable Victorian Thing by E.K. Johnston. As I said, I definitely think this is a really great, beautiful, comforting read. I would definitely recommend it, especially if this kind of concept sounds interesting to you. But if you go into it, you should definitely not expect too much from the world building. I think lots of people might go into it because they are intrigued by the world building, and while it is very interesting, I feel like it could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but I'm glad it wasn't, because the characters kind of benefited from that. Anyway, let me know if you read That Inevitable Victorian Thing, or if you maybe plan to read it now. And thank you so much for watching. I guess I'll see you soon. Bye!